From Portsmouth, LaShawn Merritt started his athletic career fast and never stopped. Out of Woodrow Wilson, now Manor High School, Merritt swept the VHSL state titles in the 100, 200, and 400-meter dashes in 2004. That same year, he took home gold in the 400 at the World Junior Championships and was a part of 2 world record-setting relay teams. It earned LaShawn the title of USA Track and Field Youth Athlete of the Year. 2 years later, he won gold in the 4x400-meter relay at the World Outdoor Championships and a silver in the 400 at the 2007 World Championships. He was a 3-time Olympian, winning 4 medals, 3 gold and a bronze over the course of his career. He has earned 23 medals in international competition, 19 of them gold. Off the track, LaShawn created the LaShawn Merritt Foundation in 2018, which is helping underserved communities with health and wellness education. His words and thoughts as a public speaker have left a lasting impression around the world, just as his feet did on the track. Please welcome to the stage the next inductee into the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame, Mr. LaShawn Merritt.
Good evening, good evening. I love that video. I've been a runner all my life, and for it to be a career of mine, it's a blessing. I'm honored to be here today. I want to thank the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame for recognizing the hard work that I've put in. It's a sport, it's a tough sport. It's one of the hardest sports, and it's all about discipline and it's sacrifice and staying focused. And I have my parents here and some support here with me. Even though it's an individual sport, it took a team, let me tell you, and they'll tell you that. I want to start with my mom, Brenda Merritt. Brenda Merritt, yes. She's been a blessing in my life. She's been the person all my life who told me to go and have fun with whatever I did. So, not an athlete, so there was no stress from mom. And then I have my dad, Owen Merritt. Yes, he would say I got the genes from him, which I probably did, but I know it took a lot more than just having genetics to be Olympic gold medalist and the #1 in the world for several years. And my dad was a guy who told me all my life that I came from a good root. I had good blood, and I was meant for something special. And that even when I won the Olympics, he told me, boy, you ain't seen nothing yet. So I said, all right, I'm going to keep working. The biggest thing he told me growing up was that a good name is worth more than silver and gold. So I take that with me with whatever I do. I am from Portsmouth, Virginia. The 757 area where the Hall of Fame was. Yes, I love Virginia. And Virginia's for lovers, so I love you all. And I started, when I was younger, I was always an athlete, always fast. I did baseball, football, and basketball. When I was younger, my mom and my dad would take me, I remember having competitions, one in Hampton, and they're driving me the next day or the same day that evening over to Virginia Beach. So they did their part, and I thank them for that, for seeing something in me when I was younger, something that I didn't necessarily see in myself. They saw greatness in me. My granddad called me Star ever since I was born. I'm the middle child, so introverted a little bit, but I stayed the course. And I have my sister here also. My sister has 6 kids. I have 6 nieces and nephews, all in sports. The coaches end up telling them, hey, you got that Merritt blood in you. You better get right. So I don't pressure on myself, but she run them around just like my parents did me, and that's what you have to do. She's a single mom. She handles 6, and I love it. I love her for that. Yes. And I also have my cousin and her husband here, my cousin runs my foundation. She's the executive director. She's helped me with a lot in my career. the logistics of a lot of things. She helped me a lot right now, post-career, and I just want to thank her for taking the drive to be here today. I'm extremely grateful and honored to be named a Hall of Famer. Yeah, I don't come from a background of athletes, so when I got the call from Mr. Will and they told me that the board had decided to induct me into this prestigious club, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude, for someone recognizing the work that I put in. I went to Woodrow Wilson High School, now Manor High School. I was a standout athlete in the sport of track and field. Got a full scholarship. I ended up going to East Carolina, which is in North Carolina. I could have went anywhere, but I fell for the coach there, Coach Bill Carson, great guy. And at the time, East Carolina was an all Adidas track and field club, and I was only wearing Nike at the time. And he said, look, LaShawn, you come from this Tidewater area. I need you. If you come to my school, I'll switch the whole program to Nike. And I ended up at East Carolina. I ended up a Pirate. I didn't want to go too far from home because I had an older brother. I'm going to rewind a little bit. I had an older brother, 5 years older than me, who was an athlete, was a musician, the ladies' man, class clown, most likely to succeed, the whole nine. And he got murdered his freshman year in college. Never got a chance to see me run track. He went to Shaw University. And ever since then, I understood that life is short. You take it a day at a time. And I'm fortunate enough to find something in my early years that I could really home in on and have this drive of, and this extra chip on my shoulder to do it for my brother, something bigger than me. In practice, those days where it was really hard and I had these interval workouts and I didn't know if I was going to make it, it was always, okay, Twan, we got this. He was my angel throughout my career. He's an angel in my life right now. And he's the driving force for who I am, I feel, right now. I have my two parents who are more, I would say my mom is a high performer. She's a high performer. She's the woman who, at her job, when anything needs to get done, it's called Brenda Merritt. She's going to get it handled. And I love that about her. My dad is also a high performer, but also a high achiever. He sings, he acts. He tell me all the time he was supposed to be famous, but he ended up marrying my mom and having kids, so he had to work all his life, and he don't regret it at all. He really take pride in raising his kids. So I thank him for that. So with me, I have this blood, this makeup of high achiever and a high performer. And I chose an event or a sport where I was able to fall in love with a process. That day-to-day process, that's what I loved. I'm the high performer before I'm a high achiever. I tell people that all the time. Like, how did you get to where you are? How did you feel after this? I never really got psyched out about Olympic Games or World Championships or the magnitude of a race because I was a high performer. My confidence came from my preparation, the intention in the preparation. Every rep in the gym, every step on the track mattered to me. So when I lined up, it was go time, and it was never about being a household name or getting inducted in the Hall of Fame or being number one in the world. To me, it was about just being my best self day to day. And I chose a sport where there was a lot of accountability. There was a lot of, it's an individual sport, so a lot of discipline. I chose discipline over motivation. And I was a guy who saw sacrifice as not this big thing, but just doing what you had to do to get what you wanted. So that day-to-day process of track and field, which is designed to stress your mind and your body daily, is stress adaptation, and then it becomes stress management when it becomes competition. So I fell in love with that day-to-day stressful process and was able to be confident when it was time to line up and bring my best self. And I was never scared of the moment. When I would get into that moment, I knew I belonged there. When I would be in Paris, I would be in Rome. My favorite place to run was Monte Carlo. When I would go to these places, I would have this thought at first early on in my career. When I would get there, it would be the 8 best in the world, and I would be 21, 22 years old, and I would have that thought of, what am I doing here? I'm from Portsmouth, Virginia, and I'm in Shanghai, like competing for whatever I'm competing against. And then that voice, that inner voice of my mom just telling me to go and have fun, and that voice of my dad letting me know that I was meant for something special. And then that confidence from the attention and the preparation, those heels, and that voice of my brother playing in my head, letting me know that I could be great, would always come right to me, and I would be able to be present in a moment and execute and be able to download this information that I was able to get in practice. They ended up calling me the machine. My nickname in the sport ended up being the machine. They say it's because of how I handled the last 100 meters. It's a 400-meter race, the hardest event in track and field. And I was able to handle that last 100 where many fail with such poise and was able to execute that part. But for me, I feel like it's a little deeper than that. I feel like the machine, when I think about it, comes from me being able to train and fall in love with that process and download information with so much intention that when it was time to execute and race and compete, I could just spit the information out in any circumstance. I never really worried about the crowd. I never really worried about the temperature or anything. I was the machine. I would download it so well, and I was able to be so present and in a flow state when it was time to execute. But it was all about preparation, all in my preparation. I ended up turning pro my first contract. I was a freshman at East Carolina, and my coach came to me and said, we're running at Arkansas this weekend, but they've decided to put you in the professional section. I was 18 years old. And I went there, I was nervous, but still confident. I learned early on to use my butterflies that I would get as confidence. I would line these butterflies up when I would feel it, and I would be the head butterfly, but you can only do that when you're prepared with intention. I would always say, proper preparation prevents piss-poor performance. And I would work those P's in training. So I knew how important that was. Line these butterflies up. I had this race in Arkansas as a freshman indoor against these elite athletes who were there to get paid and feed their family and take care of bills, and they expected something from me. And I actually won that race. That was in 2005. I won. 2 weeks later, Nike called me and told me they was going to give me this multi-million-dollar contract to give up my eligibility and to run for Nike, and they would continue to pay for whatever school I wanted to go to. So it was a win-win deal. I took the deal, I read it, fine print said I had to be top 3 in the world from here on out or I would get reduced. So it was serious now. And I took it on, I developed, I built my team, my chiropractor. The sport of track and field, you're not joining a team, so it's all building who you want to be with you, your chiropractor, your coach, your agent, your mentor, your nutritionist. You have to go and find these people. And I'm a big guy on character. So I had to weave out some people, and I found my core group. Then it was, okay, what's next? The biggest thing on the menu was Olympic Games, and I wanted to get to the top of the podium there. Now, I'd only been running the event for a couple of years, but I learned how to pick a good team. So I felt solid with my team. Then we studied a lot. We did what we needed to do. That first year, I was maybe 6th in the world. I don't think they reduced me my first year, though. After that, I was number 2 in the world. And when I was number 2 in the world in 2007, I said, next year, I'm going to win that Olympic gold. I did. I said, I'm going to win that Olympic gold next year. I had only been running the event in the sport for 3 years, and now I'm at a place where I'm battling to be the number 1 in the world and the Olympic gold medalist. My coach and I, Dwayne Miller, did everything, man. We studied a lot. We studied film. I've developed a coach's eye because I watched so much film trying to beat the guy who was number one. Each race throughout the year, I would get closer and closer and closer, not really super competitive, but just executing the plan a little different every time until I beat this guy in 2008 before the Olympic Games. Then I ended up winning Olympic trials in 2008, one step closer to not necessarily a childhood dream, but a dream that became a dream because of the work I was doing daily. That's why it was the dream. The hard work, the running, the sacrifices, the visualization, everything that I was doing was around the sport of track and field, so it only made sense that I started dreaming about it. Then I actually got to the Olympics. 2008 was the first one, Beijing. There were 3 rounds. I handled the rounds like I needed to, got there amongst the best in the world, knew I was supposed to be there, knew why I was there, and took it a day at a time. At the first round, I dominated that, followed the plan. Second round, did exactly what I needed to do. The final round came around, and that day they lined up 8 men who had been training for 4 years to be the top in the world. 8 horses. I call them quarter horses. I feel like I'm a quarter horse. That's what we call it. We would line up. We would leave the hotel, get to the warm-up area, be around each other for about 2 hours before we did this competition where if you flinched, you got DQ'd. It's one of the only sports where it requires you to be almost 99% of your health every time. You can't be out there with a hurt toe or a hurt hamstring or arm messed up like a lot of other sports. The sport is almost 99%. You know, if my hip is off, I can feel it. And we win and lose by tenths of seconds, so everything matters. And I got there at Olympic Games, that final race. I remember walking slow to the blocks. They lined us up in numerical order. I was probably 4th or 5th, but I dragged in the back a little bit because I was in such a flow state. I remember having this overwhelming sense of me that almost, I was like, have I trained? Like my feet felt so heavy. Everything was just, it felt weird, but I ended up noticing that I was in such a present state. I know I had trained, but I was so present that nothing mattered except for this race I kept running in my head that I kept winning. A lot of visualization. Like, that's the only thing that was going on. And I went out and executed exactly how I wanted and how I was thinking. And that race I won by the largest margin in Olympic history. So that was I appreciate it. That was a student really being able to get into his craft and become that martial artist when it really mattered. And I take pride in that. I went on from there to win several more Olympics, 4x4. I anchored the U.S. 4x4 for years. I've won several world championships. When I was in high school, I didn't really pay attention in history. I'm from Portsmouth. I never really paid attention, never thought I would leave out of the area. And I'm almost finished with stamps in my second passport. So I've traveled the world. I have this worldly knowledge and education that I love. I really take pride in having the DNA in the sport, but putting it together from ear to ear. You know, just having it here when it really mattered, being able to stay the course, being able to stay present, and being able to execute. I'm retired 2 years now. Like I said, I have my foundation that I'm developing, the LaShawn Merritt Foundation. I do speed camps with Nike. I have a partnership still with Nike where I go from state to state, and I put on this camp for about 6 hours and pour back into the kids. And I also just started inspirational speaking. You know, it's some motivation in it, but I was a guy who always chose discipline over any external motivating type of factor. So I just tell stories, and there's a lot of discipline and inspiration in my stories. And now the lanes, those are the 3 lanes that I'm in right now. I plan to take the same formula that I learned about how to become my best self, like the sport of track and field, and apply it to these lanes and continue to be a high performer and let the high achievements come. And I just want to thank you all for being here. You all look amazing. And class of 2024, congratulations. And I'm thankful to be one of you all. So thank you.